the last thing that I want to show is moving clusters from one cluster group to another cluster group. Cluster group can have their own configurations. So I just want to show that when you move from one to another, it inherits the data, or whatever is the configuration of the cluster group is inherited by the cluster when you move it. So I just want to show a move operation, again using TMC UI. So let's go ahead. I'm going to a different cluster group. I would like to move a cluster called this EKS TMC provisioned. I'm going to move it from source to a different cluster group. Let's move to the cluster group where we are demoing our other clusters. Let's go back to demo CG, and you would see that the cluster has moved to this cluster group. All right, and data protection is enabled on this cluster. And now something that we can do in TMC is unmanage, which is not delete, but unmanage it. So you dissociate that entire cluster from TMC. TMC deletes anything, any data related to that cluster from our backend, but the cluster will still exist. So we unmanage, and we call it as unmanage. From then onwards, you won't be able to do anything with that cluster using TMC's either CLI, UI, or Terraform. But if there's this option of managing existing EKS cluster, and as part of this demo, I would like to show that we can bring in an EKS or AKS cluster, which was created outside of TMC using any tool that of your choice. Let's call it EKS Scuttle, and bring it under TMC for not just attached scenarios where you have other like features like data protection, etc. But you can also lifecycle manage the clusters from the single plane, that's TMC. I will be using cluster ARN, and let me pass the ARN of the cluster. For this demo, I am managing the same cluster that I unmanaged a few seconds ago, but you can bring anything that you want. I just wanted to show the unmanaged part as well, and that's why I took a cluster which was already within TMC to unmanage, and then I'm bringing it back, but it's not required. You can get anything. So we specify the cluster group and manage the cluster. Once managed, you would see the Helm service being enabled because it's part of a cluster group where we wanted the Helm service to be enabled. That's why you're seeing the Helm service being enabled on the set cluster, which was managed just right now. And you should see something similar for continuous delivery as well. Initially, you should see them getting to a healthy state, but we would also like to show that we can lifecycle manage this cluster. So after a while, all right. We have the nodes, and we have the seconds. Yep. So sorry, let me go back a bit. So it says there is an upgrade available. So we are going to upgrade this cluster from 1.26 to 1.27 after managing it in TMC. And it's the same process again. You should see the control plane upgrading, and then the node tools and all the add-ons within the cluster to upgrade. So there are not we don't have to press multiple upgrades. A single upgrade would do.